Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sebelumnya izinkan saya memperkenalkan kelompok kami. Ada Michael Christopher Hamel, saya Muhammad Haekal Zulfian, dan Herawati Dewi. Pada kesempatan kali ini, kelompok kami akan mempresentasikan yang berhubungan dengan UAS Projek kami dari Politik Internasional dengan tema Sejarah Perang Dingin antara Amerika Serikat dan Uni Soviet. Langsung saja ke pembahasan. The Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union itself began after the success of the Allies in defeating Nazi Germany in World War II, which at that time only left the United States and the Soviet Union as the two superpower countries in the world with large economic and military ideological differences. The Soviet Union, together with the countries in Eastern Europe it occupied, formed the Eastern Bloc, while the United States and some of its allies controlled the Western Bloc. Some countries choose to side with one of these two superpower countries, while others choose to remain neutral by establishing a non-aligned movement, or NAM, where Indonesia is one of them. This war looked more like an ideological competition between socialism and communism, led by the Soviet Union against liberalism and capitalism, led by the United States. This ideological competition was then followed by competition in other aspects such as science, technologies, economy, social, and cultural. These two superpower countries fought in the client country territory. When Nazis and the alliance of fascism was destroyed in the Second World War II, it made the people of the world hope for true peace. But the victory of the United States and the Soviet Union in the Second World War only gave birth to new conflict and pseudo-peace. These two superpower countries brought the World War to a new phase of war, namely the Cold War. The cause of this Cold War was inseparable from the meeting of world leaders at several conferences when the Potsdam Conference in July 1945. The difference of opinion between world leaders about Europe differed. United States President Harry S. Truman had different policy differences with previous President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He argued to create free voting in all countries in Eastern Europe. The opinion of Harry S. Truman represented the people of the United States who were affected by the Holy War against Hitler and Nazism, and the citizens of Eastern Europe who are still occupied by the Soviet Union actually also want free voting. But Stalin does not agree with the opinion of Harry S. Truman. The communist dictator argues that a government built by free voting in Eastern Europe will lead into anti-Soviet Union view. Of course, Stalin did not want that to happen. In addition, the reason for Stalin's refusal was because he saw his country destroyed by the attack of Nazi Germany, which was so powerful that Stalin wanted maximum security with his allies in Eastern Europe. The Cold War is an ideological competition between the United States and the Soviet Union over the influence of the other countries. But unlike the two world wars, the Cold War did not involve direct military attacks. The two countries competed in politics, economy, and propaganda. Some theorists believe that the Cold War was triggered by the steps taken by the United States and the Soviet Union towards the end of the World War II in 1945.
The United States won the Second World War after defeating Japan through the atom bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. United States appeared as the winner from Black Alliance. This made United States as one of the superpower countries. The Soviets, who also came from the same bloc, excelled into the two World War II European through the Red Alliance. Soviet Union liberated Eastern European countries from Nazi occupation. the Cold War began after the expiration of the Berlin Wall, which divided West Germany and East Germany in 1946. British Prime Minister Winston Churchill doubled the Berlin Wall with the Iron Curtain. The Iron Curtain not only divided Germany into two but also divided Europe into ideologies known as capitalist and communist. Berlin Wall made the people of the United States condemn the attitude of Stalin on the Soviet Union. The United States government in the direction quickly not only the United States of America. The Soviet Union also protected by the Soviet Union intelligence agency around the world, starting to recruit communists with the spirit of the super against the Western capitalists. Communists in France and Italy refused the United States' decision to dominate Europe. The Soviet Union present Turkey and Iran, which were pro-United States. Since 1947, the Soviet Union had sold its activity to spread communists to Western Europe. That year, the fourth of the two superpower countries began, which marked the start of the Cold War. When viewed from the point of view, the Soviet point of view is the war to spread communists as widely as possible, while the United States point of view is to contain the influence of communists as much as possible. The first Cold War stages averaged in 1947 until 1953. During this time, there were several incidents in Europe, such as the Truman Doctrine, policy control in Berlin, Marshall's Plan, the rise of communists in Czechoslovakia, the establishment of a military organization, namely NATO, which is a military alliance of the Western bloc. There were two incidents in Asia. First, namely the victory of Mao Zedong and Communist China over Chiang Kai-shek and National China in the Chinese Civil War. Second, the South Korean Civil War. North Korea, who is more loyal to communists led by Kim Il-sung, supported by the Soviet Union, China, and communist-leaning countries. While South Korea, which was anti-communist and led by Syngman Rhee, supported by other countries in the West. The Second Cold War stage averaged from 1953 to 1956. In 1953, there was a communist uprising in Cuba. This revolution led by Fidel Castro and Che Guevara success in overthrowing the Valencia regime. The victor made United States embargo Cuba. In this second stage, NATO start an expansion, which spread a war broke out in Indochina, crisis in Mexico, Guatemala, and Suez. In 1955, the Warsaw Pact was formed, which was a rival to NATO. The Warsaw Pact is a military agreement between countries in East Europe that leaned towards communism. The three Cold War stages averaged from 1956 to 1958. There is a rebellion against the communist regime in Hungary in 1956. The Soviet Union succeeded in quelling these rebellions and suppressed the rebels. The United States clearly did not agree to see the operation, so the relationship headed up based the crisis happened in Arab, Lebanon, Jordan, and Iraq. The crisis also happened in two times between Taiwan and the people of Republic China.
The fourth Cold War stage occurred from 1958 to 1962. In 1959, the bamboo curtain was formed. You could say this bamboo curtain is the Asian version of the Iron Curtain, which is the demarcation line between the Communist People's Republic of China with the state countries that is anti-communist. Soviet Union also added support for Vietnamese troops. Laos crisis occurred related to Vietnam War, which succeeded in overthrowing the Laos Empire. In 1962, The Cuban Missile Crisis occurred because the United States had ballistic missiles in Italy and Turkey. More than 100 states-made missiles were able to reach Moscow. In retaliation, Soviet Union put missiles in Cuba. This missile crisis almost broke the world to the nuclear war. After negotiations, the Soviet Union was willing to withdraw its missiles from Cuba. The United States was also willing to withdraw its missiles from Italy and Turkey, and would invade Cuba without the direct provocation. Within the communist camp, China and the Soviets, there was also a problem. The two giant communist countries got separated in 1956 to 1966 because of the differences in the Marxist-Leninist interpretation. These differences also got influenced by the differences in interest between the two countries in the Cold War. The Fifth Cold War states occurred in 1962 to 1985. In 1968, the communists in Cambodia, led by Pol Pot, succeeded in overthrowing the Cambodia Empire and replaced it with a communist state. In 1969, China Communists and the Soviet Union also had border conflict after they had previously resolved the issue of disagreement in 1966. The Warsaw Pact also started an attack on Czechoslovakia to normalize the situation. In 1979, the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan. This conflict ended in 1989 and forced the Soviet Union to withdraw its troops. There are several events before the Cold War ended. Started in 1970, the situation between countries in the world began to improve, and conflicts had reduced. The West Berlin problem was completed in 1971. Britain joined the Western European Economic Community and succeeded in improving relations with China. The United States and the Soviet Union signed SALT I and SALT II agreement to reduce strategic weaponry. Ronald Reagan, who succeeded in intensive dialogue with Mikhail Gorbachev, and Deng Xiaoping, who succeeded in carrying out economic reformation after Mao Zedong's death. The Soviet Union began to change when Mikhail Gorbachev was appointed by the Central Committee of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union as a Secretary General. He applies the politics of glasnost, which means openness or transparency, and perestroika, which means the restriction of economy. Glasnost made Russian people aware of the good and bad conditions in the country, while perestroika aims to improve the poor economic conditions of the Soviet Union. Mikhail Gorbachev also withdrew troops and support from the Soviet Union around the world, improved relations Soviet Union and China, condemned invasions of Iraq or Kuwait, improved relations with Israel, and stopped aid to Cuba. United States and the Soviet Union continue to have intense dialogue. These two countries had dialogue in Malta and declared the end of the Cold War. Then the dialogue continued in Soviet sailing ship named Maxim Gorky. These two superpower countries agreed to reduce military power and weapons in Europe. Mikhail Gorbachev also said that he would not start an open war against the United States. The end of the 20th century was the years of the end of the Cold War. In November 1989, Berlin Wall or the Iron Curtain fell. The dissolution of the Warsaw Pact in 1991 marked the collapse of the Communist Bloc or the Eastern Bloc political policies. Pursued by Mikhail Gorbachev led to the collapse of the Soviet Union. Sekian dari apa yang kelompok kami dapat sampaikan. Jika ada salah kata atau translasi, kami mohon maaf dan terima kasih untuk sudah menonton.